TJ, man, how's it going? What's going on in your kind of corner of the insurance sales and software world?
Hey, Joey. So first and foremost, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I think it's just like anything else. Right now is an interesting time for us all. And so, things are busy. Things are, booming for us. But there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of uncertainties, especially in the insurance world currently. And we're excited to kind of face those challenges.
Yeah, like you said, it always seems like for the last, I don't know how many years it's been sort of an exciting time in terms of, I'm assuming, referencing just the kind of the boom in technology and this focus on trying to be more efficient and doing things like that. Was there a moment that really clicked for you guys in terms of like, oh, this is happening, this is taking off? Was there kind of one singularity that stood out, or what's it look like on your side of the fence?
Yeah, I'm not sure that there was that one single aha moment, but the past 6 months for us specifically, our sales with our CRM platform Blitz, our auto dialer, CallLogic, we specialize for those in the cleaning industry with Janitorial Manager, and then lastly, we've got our voice over internet phone system Align, a number of systems kind of under our umbrella, and what we've learned is that businesses today, agencies, in the insurance world today, they're also excited at the cutting edge technology that's coming out. And, everyone's under the impression that if I don't evolve with what's happening, I'll get left behind. And so that's kind of where we come in, giving, agency owners and business owners across the globe opportunities to stay ahead of the curve.
What's kind of been your journey into this? I mean, I don't know if you grew up wanting to, develop, solutions for insurance agents and sales professionals and things like that. But like, where does your passion lie in all this in terms of, like you said, helping people not get left behind?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, I think I had my first business when I was 9 years old, and I'd find things, fix them up, and resell them, and so I've always been passionate about providing, customers, prospects, consumers, an opportunity to, have situations in their life be better, and I've been motivated by that ever since I was a little kid. And so when an opportunity presented itself for me to step into the software world, and more specifically appealing to business owners, whether that be insurance or across the spectrum, it really excited me because that's something that I've been motivated and passionate about my whole life. And to see the benefits that, our software can bring, because we use it every single day in-house. We're kind of like the chef who taste tests our food first, and we know it's delicious, and we're confident when we serve it. So, because it's used in-house and couple it with my passion and my motivation for helping others, it's really been a perfect fit, and it's been exciting to see the growth.
I'd be curious to know, what do you think is, you talked about opportunity, what is maybe that next opportunity that you kind of see that maybe everybody else hasn't really caught on to yet, that, within, obviously the insurance space is where we like to kind of, do our business, but, what is that? Is there something that you're saying like, oh man, it's right there. You guys got to get it. Or maybe there's not. I don't know. I'm curious what you've seen in your guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's still a lot of kind of the old school, Excel spreadsheets mentality. Well, I've got everything on spreadsheets. And while that's fine, and that's benefited companies for a number of years, the technology that exists and primarily the automation that exists, really having software kind of behind the scenes, almost as a virtual assistant, working on your behalf. I think that is the next big thing. It's the automation. And you hear that word thrown around a lot, automation. Oh, this is automated. That's automated. And I think there's a difference between, what folks claim to be automation and then true automation, where you can kind of sit back, prop your feet up, have a cup of coffee. Meanwhile, the software that we utilize and try to, get in the hands of our customers is true automation. It's true behind the scenes magic, where it's, helping you do your job and helping you be more efficient, and ultimately allowing you to focus on what's truly important. And that's the day-to-day building your business, establishing your brand, and being more efficient.
Yeah, and like you said, there probably is still more spreadsheets out there than you would like to admit. I know I looked at one recently in the last 24 hours, so I'm as guilty as anybody. But what does it look like if you're having that sort of intervention moment, like, hey, hold on, there's a better way. Maybe we don't need to do this, a visual torture to yourself anymore. What's that first step from going from spreadsheets to maybe even just having something as simple as a 5-sequence email going? Is there sort of that? What does that conversation look like for you?
Yeah, I think technology in general can be a scary thought. A lot of people feel like most of this stuff is quote unquote over their heads, right? And then sometimes we need to remember that most of us walk around with a supercomputer in our pocket, and we look at it 90% of the day. So we're very comfortable with technology, and yet we have this apprehension towards it. So that conversation simply begins that way. I mean, every day we're inundated with technology, and most of us have become experts around it. And yet we have this kind of initial fear of something new and something different. And yet, when our smartphones first hit the market, or we first bought it, and we spent the first day or two navigating our way around it, very quickly we learned that we're capable of learning these new things and embracing technology, and then ultimately utilizing it to benefit ourselves.
That is a very good point, as we are very comfortable when it comes to being able to easily numb like our mind, to the things that are around us, right? It's like, hey, we've got easy distractions. What's the hurdle with taking it to the business front, right? Does it feel like it's more work? Does it feel like, oh, I can't see the end in sight versus, again, getting a quick social media fix?
I think that's the challenge with, showing others this technology and ultimately how it can make life more efficient. Like you said, we're constantly bombarded and we're distracted, and then social media provides us that instant gratification mindset. And so technology serves a really good purpose. It at times can, not serve a great purpose, but that's, not what we focus on. That our drive and our desire is to show how technology can actually make life more efficient for you and increase opportunity. And so, while we are constantly bombarded with distractions, what we offer is the ability to kind of, free ourselves from those distractions and allow the automation that works in the background of our software to make your life easier.
Yeah, and this is something that I've always been curious about, talking about coming from as simple as a spreadsheet or to, a single one-off sort of email sequence to, where people, I think, get maybe sometimes carried away with automation in terms of, like, again, I think maybe this might lead to where some of the implementation kind of gets, paralyzed. But is there a sweet spot that you've kind of seen businesses implement that, hey, listen, you don't need to go crazy with it. If you really get these kind of 4 or 5 things in place, then you're really going to have a nice foundation to really build from in any which direction, as opposed to just trying to automate everything and anything, just having it be this uncontrollable monster.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And so, I think it's important to understand industry best practices, right? Because the automation, like you said, if it's not on a specifically length leash, it can kind of run amok and it can run out of control. And I think that's the secret, is understanding industry best practices, understanding how the automation can best fit in a particular industry, rather, like the insurance world. There's a fine dance that anyone who's insurance does with making sure that they show a potential customer or prospect the value without being pushy or without having too much all at once in everybody's face. And so that's the secret, right? Is understanding industry best practices, which is, something that we've done, for over a decade now, and understanding that delicate balance between what's too much or vice versa, what's not enough.
All right, AJ, I'm going to hit you with this. It doesn't need to be the best, but what is your personal kind of favorite or thing that you think is maybe most effective in terms of the number one best practice in insurance?
You know, so twofold. Number one, again, kind of referring back to that delicate balance, making sure that, we're not, we have that personalized touch, right? Because a lot of how we're successful in the insurance industry is word of mouth and families and generations. And so obviously that personal touch and making sure they understand you're there for them, but without, kind of shoving it in their face. But number two, I think, and most importantly, is separating value and price, right? Sometimes as humans, we can kind of believe that the two are one and the same, and they're not. Price is what you pay, and sometimes the price is the price, and we very rarely apologize for price, rightfully so. But value is what, for that price, it brings you. And whether it's peace of mind or compliance or just knowing that you've got something implemented in the event that something could occur. And the unknowns are scary things in life. But I think the number one overall secret is getting others to acknowledge the fact that there is a difference between price and value. And if they prefer value over price, then we all can be successful together.
Yeah, I always like to let the price inform the value, and make it all relative. So that's great. And I think, like you said, we sometimes let that kind of dictate and dominate in a way the conversation. But something that I'm not necessarily as familiar with that I think has become, I don't know, you maybe tell me, maybe I just haven't been paying attention long enough, but something that has become more and more prevalent, at least in just kind of in my peripheral, is the auto dialing, right? And that's something that I would think could border on losing that sort of personal touch, right? How do you see that implemented? How do you fight against, again, having it just run amok, going crazy? What does this look like in terms of an agency that probably is still, picking up the phone manually, making these calls? Like, how does this fit into the overall piece?
So, I agree with you 100%. And I just to clarify a few things. There is a difference between kind of that robo dialer and a dialing assistant like CallLogic, which is what we offer. A dialing assistant is great in the fact that there's still a person on the other end, and you're waiting for a call to connect. You can simply upload. We're going to refer back to that spreadsheet thing again. You can upload a spreadsheet, create a calling campaign, or it can integrate with a number of CRMs, and then you can simply click start dialing. And the beauty of it is really about increasing opportunities and increasing efficiencies. Whether you're a new salesperson or you've been doing this for a long, long time, sometimes that phone can get heavy between phone calls. And with a dialing assistant, we kind of remove that, and we give somebody the opportunity to have these, kind of these back-to-back-to-back opportunities and update notes accordingly, keep that personalized touch, because it's not a robo-dialer where you're waiting for somebody to pick up. There's a 3 or 4 second delay, and then you're like, oh, hello, Mr. Smith. You're right. Yeah. That can remove the personalized touch from it all. But with the dialing assistant, simply just multiplying by 3 times the amount of touch points that you can have in a day, that has brought a great deal of success to not only ourselves, but a number of thousands of agencies that have embraced kind of the auto dialer, the CallLogic product that we offer. Thus, and this is the key here, increasing opportunity.
Yeah, that 3 seconds, it feels like it gets into its own space-time continuum where it feels like it lasts forever. And if you're on the other end of it, I always like to think, do I want to hang around and screw with this person a little bit? Because you kind of know what's coming. So that's obviously probably, like you said, a good reason not to have that in place, because it allows it to just, I would assume, feel like a regular old, phone call, right? Somebody's calling, you answer, there's no really hesitation, and it's a better experience. Would that be correct?
Oh, absolutely. And the beautiful thing is too with our dialing assistant CallLogic is you can pre-record up to 6 voicemails. And so let's say you do catch the dreaded voicemail inbox. By a simple click of a button, you can leave
Oh,
that personalized, pre-recorded voicemail. Meanwhile, from an efficiency standpoint, you've already moved on to the next phone call. So the software, is leaving that voicemail for you, and meanwhile, you're on to the next call. Again, increasing your opportunities by 3 times. And simple mathematics would tell you the more opportunities you can create, the more opportunities you can ultimately create for success.
now you just kind of broke my brain a little bit. Like, if you're pre-recording 6 like voice messages, how creative can you? What have you seen in terms of like? Because you obviously can't say the person's name, right? It's like, hey, Steve, just I thought I'd catch you. But how do you get around that? What have you seen people do with those pre-recorded voicemails?
You can get creative with the pre-recorded voicemails and just, there's an old sales trick out there that instead of saying, how are you doing? Or hope you're doing well, you can say something along the lines of, hey, how have you been? And
Yeah.
what that subliminally implies is that you guys have a relationship together, whether it's the first call or the 10th call. And so you can get creative with these pre-recorded voicemails. And you could, hey, I'm really sorry I missed you, and then, go into your quick kind of 15-second pitch, call me back type of thing. So, yeah, I mean, just from a simple sales tactic, right? There are some things that you can say to kind of subliminally plant those seeds, if you will, to perk their interest to go, hey, you know what? I think I need to call Joey back.
Yeah. Well, and it's like kind of like secretly, I'm great at forgetting. Like if I meet somebody for the first time, I'm terrible at remembering their name. And so it's like how many times, I pride myself in being able to get through a conversation like for like 10, 15 minutes without having to say the person's name again. It's like, so it's like using that trick, right? It's like, pretending like you forgot their name so you can, but still be personable. I don't know if you suffer from that, but I feel terrible.
I used to suffer from that, right? And then, with the call logic piece, and then we integrate it with our flagship software, Blitz sales software, which is our CRM. I don't have to worry about that anymore because of the time-stamped notes, and I have that personalized touch. And, I sometimes forget what I had for dinner last night, let alone the last time that I spoke to somebody a week ago and they told me that their wife, had the flu. And then, but with that all being kind of documented and logged right in front of me, I can just say, hey, last time we spoke, you said your wife was sick. Hopefully she's feeling better. Again, applying that personalized touch.
Yeah, now I'm going to take this to the next level, AJ, a little bit here, and you tell me if this is even. I'm just kind of spitballing in terms of like how I would maybe see this playing out. But let's say, like you said, you could use a spreadsheet, or I'm assuming it maybe connects into, you guys have your own proprietary software. I don't know if it opens up, but let's say you have worked some of these leads, right, and you've determined them to be we'll use a fancy marketing term, marketing qualified lead, right?
Sure.
You've done enough, taken enough actions to where they warrant some type of contact. I'm assuming you could you could probably program it with that specifically, extra warm list. And then I'm assuming you see results, even higher when you kind of put those two together when they've already been primed with something else. And then this is kind of the sledgehammer that comes in when they're really ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. If you're using a CRM like Blitz, you can certainly sort and narrow down, these warm leads or potentially these hot leads, and then click the, dial now or start dialing now button and rifle through those, that campaign. Or if you're simply using a spreadsheet, that's okay too. You can sort through, many spreadsheet providers, and then simply upload that particular calling campaign, click start dialing. With Call Logic, the beauty of it, kind of twofold. Number one, we're TCPA and DNC compliant, so you don't have to worry about scrubbing calls. It's going to do that for you. And then number two, it can be done from literally any phone. You can do it from your office phone. You can do it from your cell phone. It's all about utilizing technology, increasing opportunities. And then in the example that you provided, narrowing down the list at times to focus on whom you believe may, be somebody that, you've got an increased opportunity with.
Have you seen any sort of, again, going back to those best practices in terms of increasing the success, in terms of times, in terms of just sort of like when to kind of really go in, or is this like, because a lot of it seems like it's been focused on, you get in at 9:00 and you punch out at 5, and it's just, I've been able to make 3 times more phone calls than I would have during that 8-hour time span. Or you finding that, people are really paying attention to, when they call, what's happening around that, day and week, to try and increase the success.
Yeah, so what I've learned throughout the course of business is at times that important phone call doesn't come in between the hours of 9 to 5. Even though you may be plugging away between those hours, you may step away from your office desk and then that important phone call comes in. So, in addition to the auto dialer, the CRM, we actually provide a voice over internet phone system called Align that allows you through an app on your phone. I know, big surprise there, but through an app on your phone, being able to have your work desk on your phone at all times, your work phone on your phone. So if it's 5:05 and you're starting up your car in the parking lot and that call comes into your extension at your desk, it can ring your cell phone as well. You can answer it, and if that was the sale, or if that was the deal that you were just one phone call away from the close, you didn't miss that opportunity. You didn't give somebody another 24 hours to think about their decision. And so again, kind of just reverting back to the technology piece, we're apprehensive, but once you embrace it and once you realize the benefits that it can bring you, it just really opens up, no pun intended here, but the sky's the limit.
Speaking of the sky, speaking of the limits, I've got two more questions for you.
Sure.
Depending, who knows, we might get crazy depending on the answers. But first, what are you most excited about in terms of like what's right around the corner? Like where are we about to get? We talked about, again, being more spreadsheet focused than maybe necessary. But what is right there within reach that, hey, we should be paying attention to that is going to have an impact sooner than later?
It's the automation, Joey. I mean, it's there are many mornings where I come in still sleepy-eyed. I'm not bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the morning. But what the automation has done, with our software in the background, before I've even had my cup of coffee, it's set a schedule for me. It's set appointments. It's sent out personalized emails on my behalf 3 days after our initial touch point, reminding the individual that, hey, I'm still here. If you have any questions or you want to follow up with a quote, let's talk. I'm here. And then, there are times where I come in the morning and I've got 5 or 6 or 10 emails and I'm like, I don't remember sending those out. And then it dawns on me that, the automated programs and solutions that we offer, that's what did that for me. And that's what kept opportunities alive for me when, maybe I forgot or maybe I'm having a particularly rough morning. And the automation is what really excites me. And where we've seen success and ultimately where our thousands of customers have seen success with CallLogic is simply the automation. Of course, call recording as well, being able to play back a conversation that was maybe had a week ago. You could have it in note form, but a simple click of a button to hear the nature of the conversation, refresh my memory, and then I can proceed with the next call. So the automation, I know it sounds like we've kind of beat that into the ground today, but that is what truly excites me for like the next big thing around the corner. Just simply having kind of almost like, a shadow self working behind the scenes for you.
Yeah. So, all right. I don't know if you know the answer. I don't know if you'll know the answer to this question off the top of your head, but I'm going to add one in real quick. I like, again, talking about emails and I think a lot of agents dismiss, subject lines when they're sending these emails. If you don't know I guess the question that I wanted to ask was which subject line do you see the most replies from? Like which one actually gets people to hit reply? Like you said, I don't remember sending that email. Like, is there one subject line that stands out? Or if not, like what's your overall kind of favorite subject line, maybe best practice or whatever, but just like, what do you like to see in terms of getting people to open and then hit reply?
I think a thought-provoking question or maybe even an open-ended question where they go, I think I need to provide an answer to this, right? So, instead of, hey, how are you? I mean, that's super boring, right? Yeah. So asking a question like, have you made the switch? And then they go, okay, the switch to what? Right? And so, kind of, having them open the email and see the body and then hopefully reply. It's kind of strange to see the evolution of, sales and the approach and even in the insurance industry. For a while there, all we did was email, right? And it was email, just email me, right? And I'll answer an email. But now I've seen it kind of trending back the other way to the phone calls. I think sometimes, especially with social media and technology, we can kind of get so disconnected from our fellow human beings that we forget that, we can pick up the phone and talk to each other. And so, the thought-provoking question that can ultimately stimulate a phone conversation, I think, is key.
Yeah, it's always been my gold standard. It's, hey, what makes the phone ring? Have you compelled somebody enough to actually pick up the phone? I will say I have to appreciate getting just tons of cold emails. They're getting more creative, which I appreciate. I think I got one this morning, like, drinks are on me. I'm like, interesting. I don't drink, but whatever. We'll figure. But I like the creativity, and sometimes I feel compelled to just reward them based on their creative efforts. But two, back to the efficiency, sometimes a 5-10 minute phone call is way more efficient than trying to write, a grapes of wrath length type response to, the 4 or 5 questions. You're always like, going back and editing it. So I think that's an overlooked, avenue as well too, is that, like you said, I think it's just that sometimes it's more efficient just to talk. Last question though, AJ.
Sure.
Maybe it's fair, maybe it's not. Forget the corner. We're blowing past everything. What is the future looking like for you? What are you excited to kind of get to? Not today, not tomorrow, but what should we be preparing for longer term? And what role are you excited to play in that?
Personally, I'm still waiting on that jetpack. I think I was promised that years ago. Still waiting on that. But I think, kind of honing into our craft, above and beyond the corner. I actually hope that the use of technology allows us to become more personable with each other again. I'm hoping that social media, while it does have its place, is just a fad that will dissolve away one day. I mean, maybe that's a false hope, but I hope that down the 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it is, kind of like the future will allow us to do what we've always done great, and that's communicate with one another and genuinely care about what others need and how, especially in business, your product or your solution can bring them value, bring them a benefit. So I'm hoping that through the advent of technology, we get back to the basics, and that's to be able to communicate with one another on a personal level and establish relationships and partnerships, and kind of move away from the impersonal feelings that some technology and social media has created.